Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a massive challenge that pretty much every modern business, designer, and engineer eventually has to face. I'm talking about the wild ride of bringing a new product from a fleeting idea all the way to a tangible, market-ready reality. It's a journey that's honestly fraught with risk, miscommunication, and isolated departments working in their own little bubbles, what we call silos. But stick with me because by the end of this presentation, you'll see exactly how to transform those isolated silos into one powerful integrated synergy. Let's get into it. Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. First up, the new product challenge. Then we'll dive into industrial design, the marketing approach, and engineering precision. After that, we'll fuse them all together into an integration method, and finally wrap up with creative learning. All right, Section 1, the new product challenge. Let's establish exactly what we're up against here. So here's a pretty wild statistic for you. According to researchers Bergreb and Nasher, 30% of industrial products fail upon launch. Just think about that for a second. That is 3 out of every 10 products completely flopping after months or even years of super expensive development. This single number really highlights the central tension of our whole explainer today. The traditional, disjointed ways of creating products, they just carry way too much risk. We urgently need a better, integrated method to actually beat these odds. Now, before we can fix anything, let's get our terminology straight. We hear the words process and method tossed around interchangeably all the time, but they're actually completely different things. A process is really just a sequence of steps over time. Inputs become outputs. But a method? That's a systematic, ordered procedure used to reach a specific goal. Today, we aren't just sitting back and watching a natural process unfold. We are actively hunting for a deliberate, integrated method to guarantee our product succeeds. Moving right along to Section 2, industrial design. This is where ideas finally start taking a physical shape. I want you to notice the core phrase in this definition: humanizing technology. According to the International Council of Societies of Industrial Design and theorist Tomás Maldonado, industrial design isn't just about making things look pretty. Not at all. It's a creative activity that defines functional relationships. A designer's real job is to take raw, complicated technology or super rigid marketing specs and give them a physical, ergonomic form that a normal human being can actually understand and use comfortably. So, how do they actually pull off this humanization? Well, authors Ulrich and Eppinger outline these 5 generic design phases. And there's a really cool internal logic here. It starts broad, with planning and concept development. Think of this as a phase of expansion. Designers are just brainstorming dozens of alternative ideas and variants. But then, as you move into system-level design and detail design, the whole thing flips. It becomes a process of reduction. You're narrowing down materials, geometries, and tolerances until you have one single optimized solution that's ready for pilot production. But hey, a beautifully designed product is totally useless if nobody actually wants to buy it, right? That brings us to Section 3, the marketing approach. Philip Kotler, an absolute legend in this space, defines marketing as a fundamentally social process focused on human needs, wants, and, crucially, the exchange of value. This is the moment the product development team has to stop staring at the factory floor and start looking out into the real world. It vividly illustrates that if your product isn't offering a genuine exchange of value with another human being, it's pretty much destined to become part of that 30% failure statistic we talked about earlier. The American Marketing Association backs this up perfectly, defining marketing as the function that creates, communicates, and delivers that value. In the context of our product roadmap, marketing acts as the compass. While the design team gives the product its physical form, marketing is out there decoding the target segments, figuring out the pricing strategy, and basically determining if the product is a viable business idea before anyone spends millions of dollars trying to manufacture it. Which is a perfect segue into our third and final silo. Section 4, engineering precision. This is where the marketing compass and the beautiful design are grounded in cold, hard reality. As Vali Alvarez points out, product engineering is entirely dedicated to technological support and manufacturing viability. Because, let's be honest, you can have a stunning design and a genius marketing strategy, but engineering provides the actual mechanical backbone. The engineers are the ones in the trenches generating the technical proofs, sourcing the tooling, and building those functional prototypes so you can actually mass produce the item efficiently. Okay, so here is the million-dollar question. How do we stop these 3 departments from working in totally isolated bubbles? The secret is concurrent engineering. It's often compared to the Japanese sashimi method, which I love. Just like slices of sashimi beautifully overlap on a plate, the phases of product development need to overlap. Instead of waiting for marketing to completely finish before design starts and then design finishing before engineering steps in, it all happens simultaneously. Successive phases kick off before the previous ones even wrap up. It's a total game changer. It drastically shortens design time, slashes costs, and entirely shatters those isolated department walls. And that brings us to the climax of our explainer, Section 5, the integration method. Let's make that official shift from isolated silos to a unified approach. So let's break down how this sashimi concept builds into an incredible 7-phase methodology. Look at how design, marketing, and engineering are completely woven together at every single step. In Phase 1, need identification, you're simultaneously checking market demand and technological limits. By Phase 3, at the feasibility study, you're merging your business analysis right alongside technological testing. Fast forward to Phase 5, verification, and engineering is testing prototypes at the exact same time marketing is running test markets. This continues all the way to Phase 7, evaluation. By unifying the workflow like this, you completely eliminate that fragmented, disjointed process we saw at the start. Now, you might be wondering, does this apply to every single product? Well, the crucial thing to understand is how this scales in the real world. Basically, complexity dictates rigidity. If you're developing a really simple product, like say a spoon, these 7 methodological phases can contract. You can zip through them pretty fast. But if you're developing a highly complex product, like an airplane cabin, strict, rigorous compliance with this exact 7-phase sequence is absolutely vital for the project to succeed, not to mention for user safety. The framework can bend, for sure, but you can't let it break. All right, time for our final pivot today. We're stepping out of the corporate boardroom and into the classroom for Section 6, creative learning. Because we really need to look at the educational bedrock that makes this whole thing possible. I've got to ask you this. How do we actually prepare future creators for this highly integrated, demanding process? Because let's be real, professionals aren't just born knowing how to seamlessly execute concurrent engineering. They have to be taught. Well, according to the research of Delgado Cantu, the answer lies squarely in academia. Stimulating creativity in visual arts and design education is the essential bedrock here. Universities really need to push students to produce what are called integrative learning products. If we don't foster deep creativity and interdisciplinary problem solving while students are still in school, that complex 7-step industry synergy we just went over, it simply cannot be achieved by the next generation. It all starts with creative learning. Wow, we have covered a ton of ground today. From the crazy high risks of product failure to the unified 7-step methodology and the educational foundations that support the whole thing. I want to leave you with one final thought to take into your own work. If creativity is the engine and integration is the roadmap, which silo are you going to break down in your next big project? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.